Hello everybody in YouTube land and welcome to a resolution check-in for my 2022 resolution. It's been a bit since I've done one of these. I think my last one was in February. And it's actually because in both March and April, I didn't really play enough Investigators for me to make a video talking about like 2 Investigators that I played in the year. If you do not know, my resolution for 2022, one of them, the most important one, is that I want to play every Investigator in a campaign at least once. This is to basically refresh myself on if these Investigators are as good or as bad as I remember them, and maybe discover new things to constantly improve and get better at the game Arkham Horror. As you can tell, a little under halfway of the year, we are quite a bit under, I believe, the halfway point of my resolution checklist. You can see on the screen a red star means those are ones I'm talking about in this video today, and all the black stars are Investigators that I've talked about in the previous resolution check-ins. So my hope is that over the summer I can get a better pace and try to catch up on this a little bit. I am also getting married this summer, so I'm gonna hopefully find time to catch up a bit. But rest assured, there will be more checkups throughout the end of the year, and we're going to get as close as possible, even if I need to grind out a bunch of Arkham come November, December. We're going to do it. So that's enough of me babbling. Why don't we talk about the new Investigators that we have here today. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Parallel Agnes Baker. So this Parallel Agnes Baker is played in a custom campaign, my Cyclopean Foundations rerun, which should be hitting the channel in the near future. This run is not finished, but I have one scenario left, so this deck is pretty much in its final state. So my experience with Parallel Agnes Baker was playing it when I played the Parallel Dreamers run with M from M Plays. And in their deck, they had a very strong Parallel Agnes, and I thought, hey, I wanted to kind of make my own, because I want to learn Parallel Agnes, and I want to see if she is as strong as she seemed, and she can be very strong. She requires a few things that I learned that made me really want to, that really made me learn and made me wish that I knew this before. So what I did learn is that if you're going to play Hallowed Mirror in your deck, which is really good because it basically means she never dies, you're going to want to get Relic Hunter ASAP. It's very important to get Relic Hunter because the game that I'm going to not say it's very important. Like, you could discard the Hollowed Mirror because it ultimately can just go away and you do not lose your soothing melodies when it leaves play. You could just ignore that, right? Like, you definitely could. You could just, get rid of it. However, I don't want to sacrifice the 2 to the 3. And then likewise, once you have your Heirloom of Hyperborea in play, which is a crucial part of Parallel Agnes, because it's after you play a spell, draw a card, it basically means the soak is good. The soak for 3 and 3. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the soak isn't good. However, when you have this in play, this is the text that is incredibly crucial to ensuring that your Agnes Baker never runs out of gas. This is especially good when your Hallowed Mirror draws 2 cards. So I think now, knowing in retrospect, the Relic Hunter is a very important upgrade. So my first 2 upgrades, my first 6 experience, went into both the Hallowed Mirror and the Occult Lexicon. I think in the future, if I was going to build this exact deck again, my first upgrades would go into the Hallowed Mirror and then into a Relic Hunter, even though this was a down the rabbit hole deck, which was great. It was fun to play with and try out. It was fun to also basically build my deck at the beginning, albeit I can see that it is a bit limited to it kind of just basically puts your deck on a rail that you have to define from the beginning of the game. So it's less exciting for some people, but I still had a good time with it. I think the card's nice and strong. But yeah, so the thing that is very important is I want to have the Hallowed Mirror and Heirloom of Hyperborea in play at the same time, and I do not want to worry about the order in which I play them. So the Relic Hunter would be a big get. Otherwise, this deck is just like upgraded good stuff. I was playing after watching Bryn play Blinding Light in our events only challenge. I actually was like, this card is all right. It's okay. And yeah, you can fail, right? And you can draw out a symbol and you lose an action and take one horror, and that can be bad. Admittedly, that is bad. But I wrote this card off, and through this playthrough of the Cyclopean Foundations with Parallel Agnes, I was very impressed with this card, and I basically treated it like a kill spell, or at least it gave me some time because I evaded the enemy. So that's a discovery for me in the process. And that's also why this resolution goal was so important to me, because I wanted to find potential discoveries as I played more Arkham. I have the Prophetic, which is really nice when you get it out. The only two non-upgrades from my upgrade plan, I bought a Prophetic and Relic Hunter. Obviously, with Down the Rabbit Hole, you don't want to do too much because you will eventually... You want to not even out the Down the Rabbit Hole upgrades as much as possible. So then I was up... I don't even know how many times I upgraded, but I'm up a lot more experience than I was... that I'm down from this Down the Rabbit Hole. Other than that, I think this card's good. I know people say they want upgraded Spectral Razor and Read the Signs. I honestly can't fathom how these cards can get better to make them worth the experience. They're already just, really good. I mean, Read the Signs is... Spectral Razor is just really good. I can't imagine a better version of this card. I've seen some people say things like, I don't know, it draws a card or it deals more damage, and I'm like, it doesn't need that. We don't need that. The card's just good. Just play it. It's still good. It still impresses me every time I play it. And other upgrade plans you can see here, I had an upgrade to my Fearless and my Guts that never made it in. I was toying with a Twilight Catherine Price because my damage output on one scenario was low, but since then, the damage output's been fine. Occult Lexicon is obviously a beast here with Parallel Agnes. And you probably could feasibly put something else into your hand slots here. Maybe even a Sword Cane could be good if you're going for a Combat Agnes. That could have been actually a good point. Maybe one Fearless or lose the Guts. But overall, I'm very impressed with how this deck played. Dark Memory is still a freaking beating of a card, but it's been a fun deck, and I really like Parallel Agnes. I think she's a fun investigator, and if you like the spell-slinging event-style gameplay, Parallel Agnes is definitely worth checking out. So next up on our list, this is actually the deck that I ran with Parallel Agnes. So this is the Bob deck. In this one, this deck is pretty much also in its final state. This deck is pretty much the deck that I showcased on the channel. That was Super Fang's deck, another content creator and one of our awesome patrons, who built this Bob deck based on a deck that their friend built, which is basically abusing Joey the Rat, Scavenging, and Eon Chart to just absolutely bust the game wide open. And this deck is very strong. This deck was wild. When you're fully set up, and a bad mulligan can make it a little bit harder to get set up. I think this deck doesn't mulligan well because you need so many pieces. What you're most looking for is a lockpicks or an old keyring, but preferably a lockpicks. A Scavenging is very important off the top. You really want to get one of those. And then something like Schaffner's, Eon Chart. This Lucky Cigarette Case was just added. Backpack's obviously great on the mulligan. But I do find that this deck was a little bit fragile in its mulligans. However, once it gets set up and gets going, you have a freaking wild time. I'm pretty sure I investigated, God even knows how many times with this deck a turn. It has some of the dirtiest turns that I've ever played in Arkham, and it's a very fun time. I'm also, one thing of note, I am trying to spread my wings and fly, if you will, But I am playing with these ones. I'm trying to try more outside of my traditional style. You'll notice that the Agnes deck had 3 skills and this one has 2. So what we're saying is that Justin, he's not a one-trick pony anymore. He's playing assets. He's playing events. Look at me. I'm growing in the year of 2022 playing Arkham Horror the card game. This deck's absolutely wild. I'm excited for the videos to come out for you to see Bob in his glory. But like some of the turns that I played with this deck were absolutely filthy. Oh my god. So big thanks again to Superfang for sharing this deck with me. It is pretty close. It has some changes that are also kind of a little bit Justin, but it's still very close to the one that you can find on our channel if you go to our deck building playlist. And maybe if I'll remember, I'll have it in the video description. If not, and you want to find it, let me know in the comments and I'll add it to the video description. But yeah, I don't have much to say about the Bob deck, just that it's dirty. I'm excited because I added the lucky cigarette cases on the recent recent upgrade. So it's gonna be a fun time once I get those in play too. Yeah. Okay, who's next? Lily Chen. All right, so Lily Chen was another deck building video that went up. I think it was this month actually. I think it was just a few weeks ago. Yeah, it was just 2 weeks ago. The Lily Chen deck list went up. So this was a combat-based Butterfly Swords Lily Chen deck that was a partner for Super Fang's Joey the Rat Bob deck. So with this one, I wanted to experiment with... Oh my god, I dropped my pen. So with this one, I wanted to experiment with Lily Chen because my first experience with Lily Chen wasn't great. I thought that her level 0 deck was particularly weak, and I know that in the tier list, or in one of the videos around the tier list, I stated that Lily Chen has the worst level 0 deck of all of the Edge of the Earth cards. I don't know if I necessarily... I mean, it's hard to point out who is the worst, but I wanted to specifically try Lily Chen because I wanted to push myself to see, can I beat my own bias for Lily Chen's level 0 deck? This comes from a comment that someone said you should try Knife in your Lily Chen deck. And of course, I said, why the heck would I play Knife? Here, can I get the level 0 deck? 1 second. Let me see if I can get the level 0 deck here, too. I know that's also in the other video, but... I know that's also in the other video, but it's worth it. I can still, like, dig it up here. Boom. This has got to be it. So yeah, this was the level 0 deck where I ran 2 Knives. And it kind of changed my perspective of Knife, where Knife isn't a weapon, Knife is a kill spell that you have to set up. So if any time you're a fighter, you have a down action that's going to happen, you play Knife, and then it becomes a kill spell that you can use later in a scenario when you need to. That really changed my perspective of it, and while Knife is not like gangbusters, I am a little bit more, I'm a little bit less down on it, at least in this Lily Chen deck, because you take the Fist Discipline, you get going, and you kill. You kill and you kill and you kill. Obviously, like, it improves so much on the upgrades. Like, getting the Butterfly Swords is a must. This is a video, like, I don't have much to say about this one here, unlike the Parallel Agnes one, because that's not covered in another video. It might be one day, because I kind of want to make for like next month's deck video perchance. But one thing that I really have enjoyed about this Lily deck was the discovery of my personal line for Lily Chen, which is going to go, I will do combat first, most likely, and then depending on what my weapons are, I'm going to grab either the brain or the foot. And, I mean, I want to try the book one, too. I mean, like, obviously probably not till 2023, realistically. But to me, my problem with Lily is that I was playing her as a mystic. When you really should be playing you should be playing these characters, the Edge of the Earth characters. You should be playing them from the beginning, from your initial deck. You should be playing them as their grown-up class, not their starting class. So you shouldn't be playing Lily Chen at your level 0 deck as a Mystic. You should be planning her as a Guardian right from level 0. And I want to bring this approach to the other Edge of the Earth decks that I play as well. Like I want to play Monterey Jack. I'm going to start as a Secret level 0. It's a little bit easier with the other ones because Lily Chen, she is so flexible. And that's also what made her a little bit hard for me to kind of grok. But I think I have her now, and I feel more confident about building a level 0 Lily deck, which is an exciting time for me, and I'm also happy that, once again, why I'm doing this resolution because of that. All right, next up, this one's pretty quick. This deck is for Preston Fairmont. This is the events-only challenge that Britt and I did. That is currently finished on the channel, so you can watch the whole thing. It did not go great, but when you play janky challenge decks, that's kind of like what you expect to have happen. Obviously, I love Preston. He was in my top 5 for 2022. And I think that with this, I chose Preston because obviously he has the money and the economy to play all the events that he needs to play, but also stuff like Cunning Distraction and Intel Report are nice cards. So I did with this Preston one. I know the Preston I like to play. I like Preston. This was less about an exploratory thing and more the fact that I need to play everybody, and sometimes they're going to show up in challenge runs. And I thought Preston Fairmont would be a good choice for that. So Preston, I had a good time, even though it was not what we would call a successful campaign. Spoiler alert, but shouldn't really be a surprise. All right, so the next one I actually have here on this list is Rex Murphy. I don't have a deck for Rex Murphy because this is actually an upcoming series that should be coming out next month. Literally almost a month from now. The first episode will come out. But Em and I are doing another challenge run. We're playing a sealed run of the Innsmouth Conspiracy. And I chose Rex Murphy for my investigator for the sealed pool because I wanted to see if Rex was still very strong with limited collection, so much so that you have an actual MTG limited collection. And I'm going to be as spoiler-free as possible, but Rex is having a pretty good time. Rex is he can be a pretty strong investigator either with a limited pool, ultimately to probably the surprise of no one. All right, so next one here on the list, we have Roland Banks. So this is a challenge run that Bryn and I are doing that is currently on our on the Patreon. So in this one, Bryn and I chose an investigator pair that each shared colors. They had to have the exact same color pool. If they had multiple choices, they had to choose the same pool. So for this one, we had Roland Banks and Joe Diamond. And I'll be honest, Roland Banks, for me and my play style, this guy has a little bit of a weaker pool. For a weaker stat line. His pool's good. His card pool's good. I did not mean to say card pool. But a weaker stat line. And I was really feeling it in this. In our challenge as well, Bryn and I had a shared collection, so we could not have 4 copies of a card in each other's decks, in between the 2 decks of ours. So we kind of had to make some weird choices for I would have loved to have done some deductions or something, or even just do a practice makes perfect, but it fell into other places. This was a weird deck, and I think that even though I wasn't impressed with Roland, I think it might also fall onto me because of that. I could kill things when they showed up, but defensively I was very weak because I have 3 and 5, and honestly the Dirge of Reasoning still hits hard. This is I was telling Bryn a lot when we were doing this playthrough how I don't think Roland's stat line and ability are good enough for the weaknesses he has. And I think that's just kind of where I sit for Roland. I'm very excited to try Parallel Roland because I think that's going to be a good time. But overall, I'm not too high on Roland Banks. I actually think I'm lower on him now than I was at the start of the year. So I think Roland Banks, to me, has gone down a little bit in the power order of my own personal power rankings. The deck functioned like it got the cards I needed. I played the things and like I was doing stuff. I think it was just the choice of investigators, the choice of campaign, and I was eventually just like worn down over time and was not able to win. But yeah, it's sorry, Roland, but I'm just not super high on you, and it's because I played you. So it's all either your fault or my fault. But I, like a sane individual in 2022, I'm gonna blame everybody else. All right, the last deck I have here to talk about in this 2022 May check-in is Trish Scarborough. So this is also an upcoming deck for for a run coming out. Oh no, it's currently on the channel. It's currently being played. Look at that. I have to look at my own schedule. I don't even know what's happening. So this is a deck that's actually currently being played right now in Lyle's and my run of Dark Matter. So Lyle was playing Daniela and I was playing Trish. I had a pretty traditional Trish deck to kind of start the things off. But then when I got this offer you can't refuse, I was like, okay, what if we make a big money Trish Scarborough deck? Which is not like who you would normally traditionally put into a big money style. Like, she's rogue, but she kind of feels more like a seeker. And I thought, hey, do you know what would be fun? Let's give this a shot. And honestly, it was a blast. It was a very strong deck. Especially once it got to this like last little bit when it had all of this juice in it. It just like started spinning and it never stopped. Things that I liked as it got in, like the use of like one-ofs to kind of get things going, because as you can see, I have 2 black markets, 3 easy marks, so we're not what's the green card? Well, I'm blanking on it. It's completely left my mind. All I can hear is the Devil's Den. That's all the thing that's repeating in my head, the Devil's Den. Underworld support. There we go. We got there. So not Underworld support. Close enough. Devil's Den, Hades, Underworld. It's all the same, even though it's the criminal underworld. But let's not worry about that. So it's not like that, but just like the use of one-ofs and trying to get things in other ways. It was a very fun experience. Getting the lucky cigarette case out and going was a really good time. Like, obviously, that's why I was being experimental with my own personal deck building. I'm not saying like I'm experimental in the scope of Arkham. This is my own personal deck building. But like when I went to the one of these is obviously because the lucky cigarette case is our hope of finding those things. And then we just start absolutely loaded and we just like start going and like in the hopes of it never stop. As I said, this is currently running on the channel. It's not finished at the time that this video was recorded and released. But if you wanted to see that, you can see the Dark Matter playthrough to see Trish in all of her big money glory. And Black Fan, it feels nice. You get haste out, you start doing things. It just makes money. It just makes money. Yeah, it's a great Trish deck. I had a great time playing it, and yeah, there's not really much to it. Just I love the big money archetype now because it's got some pieces, and I'm like down with Dark Horse, up with Unscrupulous Loan. So that's just the kind of guy I am now, I suppose. All right, well, everybody, that is the May resolution check-in for my resolution of playing all the investigators at least once in 2022. I hope you enjoyed watching and seeing my thoughts on all these investigators. Here's one last look. You can see all the ones we have next left to do. I actually have a lot of these started in runs, but have not seen completion yet or have the deck in a state enough for me to talk about. So like I have Daniela Reyes is going. I have Jacqueline going. I have Safina going. I have a bunch going in draft version 2. Luckily, I chose some ones that I'm pretty aware of there. Like we have Norman Withers, Harvey Walters, Leo Anderson. Oh, another Daniela. So we're going to have 2 Danielas to talk about in the near future. Luckily, one of them is a real deck and one of them is a draft deck. Cough, 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 cough. Draft decks, crummy. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you're a Patreon, I want to just say thank you so much for supporting us. If you want to support the channel, you can check us out you can check out our Patreon in the description. You can see some of the runs here that I talked about that don't exist elsewhere. In addition, also if you want to support the channel just by liking, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff's really huge. Have there been any discoveries that you have made about Arkham Horror within the year 2022 so far? Please let me know down in the comments. In the meantime, have a great one. Thanks for watching, and as always, a GG's.